I thought my relationship with Amanda was the real deal. From the outside, we were the perfect couple sharing a cozy apartment in Chicago filled with photos of our adventures together. After 3 amazing years, I was ready to propose on our upcoming anniversary. I had the ring, the plan, everything. But when Amanda said we needed to talk, her distant behavior of the past few weeks suddenly made sense. She looked me in the eyes and said, "I need space, Josh. Let us just be friends." My world collapsed, but I simply replied, "Sure. If you are watching this story right now, let me know where you are tuning in from. And if you have ever had your heart unexpectedly broken, consider subscribing to join our community of survivors and thrivers." My story with Amanda began 3 years ago at my friend Tyler's birthday party. I was not planning to stay long that night, just a quick appearance to drop off a gift, but then I saw her across the room. Amanda had this infectious laugh that drew me in, and somehow we ended up talking for hours about our shared love for indie music and dream travel destinations. That night I knew she was special. Our relationship progressed naturally. We dated for a year and a half before deciding to move in together. I still remember carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs to our apartment, both of us exhausted but excited about starting our life together. The place was not perfect, a bit small, with an unreliable heating system, but it was ours. I worked as a software engineer at a tech startup downtown, often putting in long hours but making sure to maintain our date nights. Amanda worked in marketing for a fashion company, a job she was passionate about. Our careers were both taking off and we supported each other through the stress and celebrations. About 6 months before everything fell apart, I noticed subtle changes. Amanda started coming home later from work, often mentioning office drinks or events. When she was home, she would be glued to her phone, angling the screen away when I walked by. The affection that had been so natural between us, the casual touches and kisses, started to fade. Still, I was planning our future. I had saved for months to buy the perfect engagement ring, a vintage oval diamond that reminded me of the one her grandmother wore in the family photos she cherished. I had arranged a weekend getaway to Michigan for our anniversary, where I planned to propose by the lake at sunset. The ring was hidden in my sock drawer, waiting for the perfect moment. What I did not know then was that Amanda had been slowly detaching herself from our relationship, preparing her exit while I was planning our future. The night everything changed, I noticed Amanda had been unusually quiet during dinner. She barely touched the pasta I made her favorite meal. After we cleaned up, she asked if we could talk in the living room. Her voice had that serious tone that immediately sends a chill down your spine. We sat on opposite ends of the sofa we had picked out together at a flea market. Amanda was fidgeting with her bracelet, a nervous habit I had always found endearing. But that night, it was just a warning sign of what was coming. "Josh." She started, her eyes focused on the coffee table rather than me. "I have been doing a lot of thinking lately about us, about where we are headed." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I feel like things have changed. I think I need some space." I felt my chest tighten, but I remained silent, letting her continue. "You are an amazing guy, and these years have meant so much to me," she said, finally looking up. Her eyes were glossy. "But I do not think I feel the same way anymore. I think we would be better as friends." Those words hit me like a physical blow. Friends. After 3 years after building a life together, after I had been carrying a ring in my pocket for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. "Is there someone else?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. "No," she replied too quickly. "This is about me, about what I need right now." But there was something in her expression, a flicker of guilt that told me otherwise. Still, I did not push. Instead, I just nodded and said, "Sure." She seemed taken aback by my calm response. Maybe she expected tears, pleading, or anger. But in that moment, all I felt was a strange numbness. "That is it, just sure?" she asked, confusion evident in her voice. "What do you want me to say, Amanda? I cannot force you to feel something you do not. If you need space, if you want to be friends, then okay." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Finally, I stood up and grabbed my jacket. "I need some air. I'm going for a walk." I did not wait for her response. I needed to get out of there, away from the apartment that suddenly felt like it was closing in on me. I walked for hours that night through our neighborhood, past the coffee shop where we had our weekend breakfasts, past the park where we had picnics in the summer. Everything around me was a reminder of what I had just lost. That night I could not sleep. I lay awake in our guest room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship, searching for signs I might have missed. Had she been unhappy for longer than I realized? Was there something I could have done differently? At 3 a.m., I called Ryan, my best friend since college. Despite the hour, he picked up on the third ring. "Josh, what is wrong?" His voice was groggy with sleep. "Amanda wants to break up. Says she needs space and wants to be just friends." Saying it out loud made it feel more real, and my voice cracked. "Man, I am so sorry. Do you want me to come over?" "No, I just needed to tell someone. I feel like I am in some kind of nightmare." Ryan listened as I vented, offering support without judgment. "Look," he said, "finally this sucks, and you have every right to be devastated. But do not let this destroy you. Take tonight to feel everything, but tomorrow you need to start thinking about yourself." After we hung up, I could not shake the feeling that there was more to Amanda's sudden decision. Her behavior had been strange for weeks, and her denial about someone else did not ring true. While she was asleep in our bedroom, I did something I never thought I would do. I checked her phone. I felt sick as I scrolled through text messages with someone named Jake from her office. They were not explicitly romantic, but the flirtatious undertones and plans to meet after work were clear enough. The final piece that confirmed my suspicions was a message from 3 days ago. "I cannot wait to see what happens when you are finally free." The betrayal burned, but it also ignited something in me, a determination not to be the backup plan, not to be the safety net while she explored her options. I decided then that I would take her at her word. If she wanted space, if she wanted to be friends instead of partners, I would show her exactly what that meant. The next morning, I started creating a methodical list of all our shared accounts and responsibilities. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Spotify, Family Plan, our joint gym membership, all paid from my account. The car technically mine, but that she used regularly. The vacation to Maine I had booked for next month. The list went on. With each item I wrote down, I felt both a sense of loss and a strange empowerment. Yes, this was painful, but I was taking back control of my life rather than waiting for Amanda to decide she wanted me again. I was choosing myself, perhaps for the first time in our relationship. By morning, I had a clear plan. If Amanda wanted us to be just friends, then she would no longer enjoy the benefits of being my girlfriend. It was not about revenge, it was about self-respect and boundaries. It was about making it clear that she could not have it both ways. I began systematically removing her access to our joint subscriptions. First, Netflix changing the password and removing her profile. Then Hulu and Amazon Prime. I logged into Spotify and removed her from our family plan. I called our gym and removed her from our couple's membership. Each action was like ripping off a Band-Aid, painful but necessary. I fought through tears as I packed her belongings from our bathroom and closet, neatly organizing them on her side of the bedroom. I found little things that reminded me of our relationship. A ticket stub from our first concert together, a small bottle of her perfume I kept in my drawer. I placed them all in a box, unable to look at them anymore. I canceled her ticket for our Maine vacation, the one where I had planned to propose. I found the car keys she used, the spare set I had given her on our first anniversary, and put them in my drawer. As I was in the middle of changing our joint bank account information, my phone started buzzing with text notifications from Amanda. "Why can I not log into Netflix? Did you change the Spotify password, Josh? What is going on?" I did not respond immediately. I needed to finish what I had started. By the time I was done, my phone had 14 missed calls and over 20 text messages, each one more frantic than the last. Finally, I texted back, "Just making the changes needed now that we are just friends." Her response was immediate. "This is childish and petty. I never said we could not share things anymore." I took a deep breath and called her instead of texting. When she answered, her voice was a mix of anger and confusion. "What are you doing, Josh? Why are you acting like this?" "I am not acting like anything, Amanda. You said you wanted space and to be just friends. Friends do not share Netflix accounts or car keys or gym memberships. Friends do not go on romantic vacations together. I am just respecting your wishes. That is not what I meant, and you know it, she snapped. Then what did you mean? Because from where I stand, you want the comfort and stability of our relationship without actually being in the relationship. That is not how this works. There was a pause before she spoke again, her voice softer. I thought we could still live together, at least for now. I thought we could take some time to figure things out. Figure what out, Amanda? Whether things work out with Jake from the office. The silence on her end confirmed everything. Finally, she spoke, her voice small. How did you know about Jake? It does not matter. What matters is that you were not honest with me. You had someone lined up before you even ended things with me. And you expected me to wait around as your safety net in case it did not work out. It is not like that, she protested weakly. Then what is it like? Explain it to me. When she could not provide an answer, I continued. I deserve better than being someone's backup plan. So yes, I changed the passwords. Yes, I took back my car keys. And yes, I am setting boundaries, because clearly you did not respect me enough, to be honest. I hung up my hands shaking, but my resolve stronger than ever. For the first time since our breakup conversation, I felt like I was standing up for myself, rather than just accepting whatever scraps of affection Amanda was willing to toss my way. The next day was surprisingly quiet. No texts, no calls. I went to work trying to focus on coding rather than the emptiness waiting for me at home. My colleagues noticed something was off, but I deflected their concerns with vague explanations about not sleeping well. That evening, as I was heating up leftover takeout, my phone lit up with a message from Amanda. We need to talk. Can I come over tonight? I responded simply. Not tonight. I need space. Using her own words felt both petty and satisfying, a small victory in the midst of heartbreak. The following day brought a barrage of messages, each one more urgent than the last. Amanda had apparently tried to use our joint credit card only to find I had removed her as an authorized user. She had gone to the gym only to discover her membership had been canceled. Every convenience she had taken for granted was now gone, and she was not happy about it. But it was the final straw that came that evening when she texted Jake, was just using me. He does not want anything serious. I made a mistake, Josh. I read the message over and over, a mix of vindication and renewed hurt washing over me. She had thrown away our relationship for someone who just wanted a fling. And now that it had fallen apart, she was looking back at what she had discarded. I did not respond to that message. I did not know what to say. Part of me, a part I was not proud of, felt a grim satisfaction knowing that her grass was not greener after all. But mostly I just felt sad for both of us trapped in this painful situation of her creating. Exactly 72 hours after our initial breakup conversation, there was a knock on our apartment door. I knew who it was before I even checked the peephole. Amanda stood in the hallway, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy from crying, clutching her purse like a lifeline. I opened the door but did not invite her in. We stood facing each other across the threshold, the physical manifestation of the new boundary between us. "Can I come in, please?" she asked, her voice breaking. I stepped aside, allowing her into what had once been our shared space, but now felt distinctly mine. She walked to the couch and sat down, looking around as if seeing the apartment for the first time. "You move things," she noted quietly, noticing the rearranged furniture and the absence of several of her decorative touches. "I needed a change." She nodded, then took a deep breath. "I made a huge mistake, Josh. I see that now. Jake, he was not who I thought he was. He just wanted." She trailed off. "A fling I finished for her. While you were still with me." Her head snapped up. "What do you mean I know you were seeing him for at least a month before you broke up with me, Amanda?" I saw the messages. The color drained from her face. "You went through my phone once. After you broke up with me, I needed to know if there was someone else. You lied to me." She did not deny it, which somehow hurt more than the betrayal itself. At least now we were being honest. "It was not serious with him at first," she tried to explain. "Just flirting some texts. But then it became more and I got confused about my feelings. I thought maybe if I had some space to explore things with him, I would know for sure what I wanted. And now you know." She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I want you, Josh. I want us. I made a terrible mistake and I am so, so sorry. Can you forgive me? Can we try again? I looked at her, this woman I had loved so completely, who I had planned to spend my life with. She was beautiful, even in her distress, and part of me ached to comfort her, to pull her into my arms and pretend none of this had happened. But I could not unknow what I knew now. You were seeing him for a month, Amanda. A month where you were coming home to me, sleeping in our bed, letting me believe we were planning a future together. I was about to propose to you. Her eyes widened at this revelation. You were? I nodded. Anniversary weekend. I have had the ring for months. Fresh tears welled in her eyes. I did not know. Josh, please, if I had known. If you had known what, you would not have cheated. You would have said yes out of obligation. None of those options make me feel better. She flinched at the word cheated, but did not argue. I know I hurt you, but people make mistakes. We can work through this. I love you, Josh. I never stopped loving you. But you stopped choosing me, I said quietly. And that is what matters. Love is not just a feeling, Amanda. It is a choice you make every day. And when things got difficult or boring or whatever it was, you chose someone else. So that is it. 3 years together, and you are just throwing it away. The irony of her statement was not lost on me. I am not the one who threw it away. You did that when you decided to pursue Jake while still with me. When you lied to my face about there being someone else. When you expected me to wait around as your backup plan. That is not fair, she protested. None of this is fair. But it is the reality we are in now. You cannot undo what you did, and I cannot unfeel what I am feeling. So, you are punishing me by cutting me off from everything. I shook my head. This is not punishment, Amanda. This is me establishing boundaries and taking care of myself. These were my accounts, my subscriptions. The fact that you are upset about losing Netflix access rather than losing our relationship says a lot. She recoiled as if I had slapped her. That is not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because all I have heard from you is how inconvenienced you are by the consequences of your own actions. We sat in silence for a long moment before she spoke again, her voice small. So there is no chance for us, none at all. I considered her question carefully. Did I still have feelings for her? Yes. Could I see myself forgiving her someday? Maybe. But could I ever trust her again? Could I ever look at her without seeing the betrayal? Could I ever believe her when she said she was working late or out with friends? I do not think so, Amanda. Too much has happened. I need to move on, and so do you. The finality of my words hung in the air between us. She nodded, slowly accepting the truth neither of us wanted, but both of us needed. Can I at least get some of my things tonight? Some clothes and toiletries, I nodded, watching as she moved around the apartment collecting essentials. We arranged for her to come back on the weekend to get the rest of her belongings while I would be out with Ryan. It was better that way, cleaner. No more messy emotions or desperate attempts to change what could not be changed. As she stood at the door to leave, she turned back one last time. I really am sorry, Josh. I hope someday you can believe that. I do believe it, I said honestly. But sometimes sorry is not enough. I closed the door behind her, leaning my forehead against it for a long moment. Then I turned around to face my apartment, empty of her presence, but somehow fuller with my own. The days and weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. The apartment felt too big, too quiet without Amanda. I found myself reaching for my phone to text her about small moments in my day before remembering we were no longer sharing our lives. Each reminder of her absence was like reopening a wound. When the weekend came, I made sure to be gone while she collected her things. Ryan went with me to a baseball game, trying his best to distract me, but my mind kept wandering back to the apartment, imagining Amanda packing up her life, removing all traces of herself from our shared space. When I returned home that evening, the apartment had that hollow feeling of a partially moved-out space. Half the books missing from the shelves, gaps in the closet where her clothes had hung, her favorite coffee mug gone from the kitchen cabinet. It was as if someone had taken an eraser to parts of my life, leaving smudged, empty spaces behind. What surprised me was the support I received from friends I had not even known were watching the situation. Texts and calls came in from people who had heard about the breakup, many expressing admiration for how I had handled things. You did not beg or make a scene, my friend Javier said over beers the following week. You just set your boundaries and stuck to them. That takes serious strength, man. I did not feel strong. I felt hollowed out, gutted by the betrayal and loss. But I appreciated their perspective. Maybe from the outside, my actions looked like strength. From the inside, they felt like survival. The most difficult moment came 2 weeks after Amanda moved out. I was cleaning the apartment thoroughly, trying to reclaim the space as entirely my own, when I found a small notebook tucked behind the bedside table on what had been her side of the bed. It had fallen into that gap between furniture and wall, forgotten in her hasty packing. I should have texted her about it, put it aside for her to collect later. But curiosity got the better of me, and I flipped it open. Inside were notes, diary entries of sorts, many about Jake. There were hearts drawn around his name, little fantasies written out about their future together, complaints about me and our relationship. The earliest entry was dated 4 months before our breakup, far longer than the month she had admitted to. The discovery felt like being punched in the stomach. 4 months. Nearly a third of our last year together had been a lie. I sat on the edge of the bed, the notebook in my trembling hands, and allowed myself to cry, really cry for the first time since everything had fallen apart. A week later, Amanda asked to meet for coffee to tie up some loose ends, practical matters about bills and mail forwarding. I agreed, choosing a neutral location, a coffee shop we had never visited together. She looked different, somehow smaller perhaps, or just separate from me in a way I was still getting used to. We handled the practical matters quickly, efficiently, like the strangers we were becoming to each other. As we were preparing to leave, she paused. I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. I nodded, bracing myself. If Jake had not been in the picture, if it had just been about me needing space, would you have reacted the same way, cutting me off from everything? I considered her question carefully. If you had been honest from the beginning, maybe things would have gone differently. But you were not honest, Amanda. And that is what this was really about. Not the Netflix password or the gym membership, but the fact that you lied to me and expected me to be your safety net while you explored options with someone else. She nodded slowly. I guess I always thought you would be there no matter what. That you loved me too much to ever really let me go. That was the problem, I replied. I did love you too much. So much that I was losing myself. This forced me to find my self-respect again. As we stood to leave, she handed me her key to the apartment. I guess this is really goodbye then. I took the key, the final physical connection between us severed. Goodbye, Amanda. Walking away from that coffee shop, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. A chapter of my life was truly closing, but for the first time I was beginning to believe that the next chapter might actually be better. The first few months of rebuilding my life were the hardest. I struggled with loneliness, with trust issues, with the simple logistics of building a life on my own after years of partnership. There were nights I still reached across the bed for someone who was not there, mornings when I made enough coffee for 2 out of habit. But gradually, day by day, I began to heal. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion that had been a long time coming. I recommitted to my health, joining a new gym and establishing a routine that helped burn off the anxiety and anger that sometimes threatened to consume me. I started therapy, something I had never considered before, but that proved invaluable in processing the betrayal and loss. My therapist helped me see that while Amanda's actions had hurt me deeply, they were not a reflection of my worth or lovability. They were her choices stemming from her own issues and insecurities. I reconnected with friends I had lost touch with during my relationship, people who brought new energy and perspectives into my life. I took a cooking class, something I had always wanted to do but had put off. I joined a hiking group and discovered a love for outdoor adventures I had never fully explored. 6 months after our breakup, Amanda reached out again. A simple text. I miss you. I miss us. I have been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of work on myself. I wonder if we could talk. My thumb hovered over the phone screen for a long moment. 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, I might have said yes. I might have been willing to hear her out, to consider giving us another chance. But now the thought did not fill me with longing or hope. It just felt like a step backward. I replied simply, I am glad you are working on yourself. That is important. but I am moving forward with my life now. I wish you all the best." Her response came quickly. "I understand. I just want you to know I really did love you, Josh, and I am truly sorry for how I hurt you." I know I texted back, "Take care of yourself, Amanda," and I meant it. The anger had faded, leaving behind a calm understanding that sometimes people make mistakes that cannot be undone, and sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves and others is to accept that and move on. In the end, the most valuable lesson from the whole painful experience was learning to value myself enough to walk away from someone who did not value me the same way. It would have been easier in some ways to take Amanda back, to try to rebuild what we had, but it would not have been better. Instead, I chose the harder path of starting over, of rebuilding my life on my own terms, and in doing so, I found a strength and resilience I never knew I had. A year after the breakup, I moved to a new apartment in a different neighborhood. It was a fresh start, a space with no memories of Amanda, no ghosts of our relationship lurking in the corners. I furnished it exactly as I wanted, not compromising my style or preferences for anyone else. I began dating again, cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. I was clearer now about what I wanted and needed in a relationship, about the boundaries I would maintain, about the deal breakers I would not ignore. I was no longer afraid of being alone, which paradoxically made me a better partner. The pain of Amanda's betrayal never completely disappeared, but it faded into something more like a scar than an open wound, a reminder of what I had survived rather than something that still had the power to hurt me. Looking back now, I am grateful for that moment when I simply said, "Sure," instead of begging her to stay. I am grateful for the strength I found to take back control of my life rather than waiting for her to decide my worth. And I am grateful even for the pain which taught me more about myself than comfort ever could have. If there is one thing I want to share from my experience, it is this: sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to walk away from something that is hurting you, even when every instinct is screaming at you to hold on. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not fighting for someone who has already chosen to leave, but respecting yourself enough to let them go. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between dignity and desire, between self-respect and the comfort of the familiar, even when it was hurting you? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and growth through life's challenges. Thank you for listening, and remember, choosing yourself is never selfish, it is necessary.